During the summer of 2003, events in the northeastern United States involving a strange human-like creature sparked a brief local media interest before an apparent blackout was enacted. Little or no information was left intact, as most online and written accounts of the creature were mysteriously destroyed. Primarily focused in the rural New York State, self-proclaimed witnesses told stories of their encounters with a creature of an unknown origin. Emotions ranged from extremely traumatic levels of fright and discomfort to an almost childlike sense of playfulness and curiosity. While their published versions are no longer on record, the memories still remain powerful. Several of the involved parties began looking for answers that year. In early 2006, a collaboration had become inaugural. Nearly 24 documents dating between the 12th century and the present day, spanning 4 containments. In almost all cases, the stories were identical. I've been in contact with a member of this group and was able to get some experts because of their upcoming book, The Rake, Suicide Note, 1964. As I prepare to take my life, I feel it's necessary to assuage any guilt or pain that I have introduced through this act. It's not the fault of anyone other than him. For once I woke and felt his presence, and then I woke and saw his form. Once again, I woke and heard his voice, and looked into his eyes. I couldn't sleep without the fear of what might next wake up to this experience. I can never wake. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box were only 2 envelopes were addressed to William and Rose, and one loose personal letter with an envelope. Dearest Linny, I've prayed for you. He spoke your name. A journal entry, translated from Spanish, 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I look into his eyes when I close mine. They're hollow, black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand. I will not sleep. His voice. Unidentified text. A Martha's log, 1691. He came to me into my sleep. From the foot of my bed, I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not share. We shall not return to here again. At all requests of the rake. From a witness, 2006. 3 years ago, I had returned from a trip in Niagara Falls with my family. The 4th of July, we were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my husband and I put the kids right to bed and called it a night. At about 4 a.m., I woke thinking my husband had got up to the restroom. I used the moment to steal back the sheets, only to wake him up in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he got out of bed. When he turned to face me, he gasped and pulled his feet up from the end of the bed so quickly his knee almost knocked me out of the bed. Then he grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for a half second, I was able to see what caused the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, there was what appeared to be a naked man, or a large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned to its condition. At this point, I was somewhat under the assumption that we were supposed to help him. My husband was peering over at his arm and knee, tucked into the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of emotion, The creature scrambled around the side of the bed and crawled quickly in a failing sort of motion right along the bed until it was less than a foot away from my husband's face. The creature was completely silent for about 30 seconds, probably closer to 5. It seemed like a while. Then, just looking at my husband, the creature then placed its hand on its knee and ran into the hallway leading to the kids' room. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop him before he could hurt my children. When I got into the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough for me to see it crouching hunched over 20 feet away. He turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood. I flipped the switch and saw my daughter, Clara. The creature ran down the stairs while my husband rushed to help our daughter. She was very badly injured and spoke only once more in her short life. She said, "He is the rake." My husband drove his car into a lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. He did not survive. Being a small town, the news got around pretty quickly. The police were helpful at first, and the local newspaper took a lot of interest as well. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After that, we decided to return home. I began looking for answers myself, and eventually located a man in the next town who had a very similar story. We got in contact and began talking about our experiences. He knew 2 other people in New York who had seen the creature we now refer to as the rake. It took the 4 of us about 2 solid years of hunting in the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what we believed to be the accounts of the rake. None of them gave any ideas, details, histories, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving the creature on the first 3 pages, and then never mentioned it again. A ship's log explained nothing of the encounter, saying only that were told to leave by the rake. That was the last entry in the log. There were, however, many instances where a creature was one series of visits with the same person, multiple people also mentioning being spoken to my daughter included. Then led us to wonder if the rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digit recorder near my bed and left it running all night. Every night for about 2 weeks, I would tendency scan through the sounds of me rolling around in my bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the 2nd week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep while buried into the recording at 8 times that normal speed. This took almost an hour every day. On the first day of the 3rd week, I thought I had noticed something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to describe it. I haven't let anyone listen to it yet, and all I know is that I've heard it before. Now I believe that when it spoke, it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at the time, but for some reason, the voice recorder immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts must have gotten through my daughter's head and made me very upset. I have not seen the rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he's still into the room while I slept. And I know that the fear one night I will wake up to see him staring at me. I've got a lot of requests for this story recently, both by email and C-Box. So here it is. I couldn't find the original author, so just a repost of the SA ghost thread. So if you know, comment and rewrite to me. Please like and subscribe.